Hi everyone, I'm Hayley. I'm always in the craft room, and that is just where I have been this week, using up all of my recent jersey scraps. I have made so many pairs of underwear, and let me tell you, I really needed some new ones. So let's get straight into it with the pattern that I use. The basis of this pattern is the Rosy Ladyshorts by Cloth Habit, and it is a free pattern. However, I have modified it quite a lot to come up with my ideal underwear. You will know I'm a bit of a princess. I like things just so, and I have really worked on this pattern until I have got it exactly how I like it. So the original pattern actually has a centre front and centre back seam, and I didn't want that for a couple of reasons. The first is that the pattern pieces therefore have half a front, a narrow side bit, and then half a back. And they're just a very weird shape and quite difficult to nest to make the most of your fabric. And the second thing is, I just don't find it the most comfortable. I prefer a side seam. However, everything else about this pattern I loved. So when I made my very first pair, exactly per the pattern, I loved how high they came up. I loved how low they went down. I liked the overall shaping and the shorts look. It was literally just the centre front and centre back seams that I didn't like. So what I did, and as always, like, look up a proper way to do this. I'm just telling you what I did. I'm sure it's not the right way. I just took that pair of pants that I had made, laid them out flat, snipped up both sides, and drew out a new pattern piece. I'm sure I've missed out on some shaping centre front and centre back, but you know what? I absolutely love every pair of pants I've ever made from this new modified pattern. So I have a side seam here. You can see it because I didn't do a great job on my stripe matching there. This side's a bit better. And I have therefore eliminated this centre front and centre back seam. I will show you the pattern pieces that I made. So the original pattern is like this half attached to half of this, if you can imagine, and it comes out a really odd shape. With this, I can nest the pattern pieces on my fabric a bit like that, which just allows me to get more pairs out of less fabric. You can also see that here I've added a little piece. The original pattern dips down quite low at the front, and I think I'm entering my big pants era. So I recently added about 3 centimeters on here, just straight across, and I do prefer that. So you will see I've done this onto cardboard. And the reason for that is that in my size, I can actually lay out a front or a back pattern piece on an A3 cutting mat. So I cut these out with a rotary cutter. And when I just had them out of paper, I found that every time I cut them out, I was just taking a tiny, tiny bit off. And slowly over time, the pattern pieces and therefore my pants were getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I've traced them onto cardboard, and this works much better because even though I do still sometimes catch it, it kind of stops me in my tracks. When it was paper, I'd cut the bit of paper off as I was cutting out the fabric before I even noticed. Whereas because of the thickness of this, it does actually just stop the rotary cutter, and then I can readjust and make sure I'm not trimming any more away. I also have the little lining piece here, and I always cut this from cotton. So just any cotton jersey that I have, I save even the smallest of remnants because you don't need much just for the lining. When it comes to the outer, I have done them in every kind of jersey fabric that exists, but I do make allowances depending on the type of fabric. So for the top and the bottom, I finished them with stretch lace elastic. And this is super stretchy and readily available if you know where to look for it. So I have bought this many a time on eBay, but once I spotted it one time, on the counter of a sewing shop, I've had my eyes peeled, and I often see it just bundled up in a little loop for sale for a few quid for a really good long length. So eyes peeled on the counter in every sewing shop you ever go to, and you likely will see some too. But be mindful, it looks just like lace, but it's not. I mean, it is, but it's not. It is so stretchy. And I love this stuff because it gives you a really pretty finish that is also super comfortable, not at all constricting, and it's invisible. You can't see it through clothes. It gives such a nice flat finish, no visible panty lines here. So I tend to use narrower stuff for the legs, wider stuff for the waist, and I really just kind of collect this in every colour I see it in and then find the best match. This one is an off-white. For this pair, I use the true white for the waistband and then hot pink for the bottoms. And you can see I'm not even fussy about the width. This one is wider than this one. For the leg openings, I apply it basically completely flat. I have tried stretching it, and I have read advice that says stretch it around certain curves. And for me, if I stretch it at all on the legs, I find them uncomfortably restrictive. So I just apply this literally 1-to-1 with a zigzag stitch. And you can see on this one, the hearts are upside down, but I don't know what to do about it because this straight flat piece is the bit that I want to stitch onto. So I still think they're cute, but it just made me laugh a bit that that is upside down. For this top edge, I vary how much I stretch it depending on the fabric. So the pair I'm actually wearing, which I'm not going to show you, but I will insert a picture, are made from a really stretchy sports lycra knit. I think it's a synthetic fabric. It's got loads of lycra in it. The recovery is amazing. They bounce back. And on those ones, I just add the tiniest amount of stretch as I'm zigzagging this on. And I do just lay it on top and put it on flat. I'll show you the inside so you can hopefully see what I mean. I literally just lay it on the outside and zigzag it over the top. And on these heavy lycra pair, tiny bit of stretch. This is a cotton jersey, I believe. And on these ones, I did give it a good amount of stretch around the top because, as far as I know, there's no lycra in this fabric. I used it to make this t-shirt, and I don't think there is lycra in it. If there is, it's not much. And being a cotton fabric, it's heavy. So I find if I don't add tension as I put the elastic in, over time with body heat, they fall down basically. The other change that I made to account for this fabric is taking a larger side seam. So my pattern piece is drawn out with a 1 centimetre side seam. And when I'm working with anything that doesn't have much recovery, I take a larger side seam. I take 1.5 centimetres. So that reduces them around by 2 centimetres. On the pair I'm wearing with a high lycra content, I don't do that. So they are actually slightly different sizes, but I find that is necessary because otherwise the cottony ones do slip down. So the lining piece is in here, and it is possible to fully burrito the lining. In the standard instructions, you enclose it along here by sewing right sides together and flipping, and then this front bit you just zigzag. So it's just laid on flat and zigzagged across. It is perfectly possible to burrito this by rolling everything up in between all the layers and then pulling it out through the side gap before you finish the edges. However, I have tried that, and for me, I just find this is much less bulky and therefore more comfortable. It's literally just a single row of zigzags along the front, and this is so flat. So I actually prefer it not burritoed, but as I say, perfectly possible and very easy to do. You can see the zigzags along the front there. These literally take me 20 minutes from start to finish to sew up a pair, but the key for me is that I have to cut them out as soon as I cut out my project. So I bought 1 meter of this fabric from Fabworks, and from it I got a long sleeve Idlewild t-shirt where I did a square neck variation, and then I also managed to cut 2 pairs of these knickers from 1 meter of fabric. From the blue fabric, I managed to get a cap sleeve t-shirt and 3 pairs of these all cut out. And you better believe I do quite often wear them together because it just makes me smile. I've said before that I don't think sewing often saves us money on clothes because ready-to-wear clothes, let's face it, are disgustingly cheap. I mean, I don't know how they can do it. All I know is that someone is losing out and it's not the big businesses. So this seems to be one area where we can actually save money because I end up with exactly the undies I want, and this fabric was offcuts. It was not useful for anything else. All I've had to buy is the elastic, and it's honestly, if there's £2 of elastic in there, I would be surprised. I buy as long a length as I can because my waist circumference is like annoyingly short of 1 meter. So if I buy 1 meter, I end up with all these short bits left over. So I try to buy it in like 10 meter lengths, and then I get 11 waistbands out of it. And the key for me is that I have to cut them out as soon as I do the project. So I actually just leave this under my cutting table so that anytime I cut anything out of jersey, I see if and how many fronts and backs I can get out of it. And then I sew them up while my machine is threaded in the right colour and has the right needle on, because that is always one of the sticking points for me. So if I can just get them sewn up as part of the project, I swear, 20 minutes, new undies, what's not to love? I know undies are so personal, and what I love might not be what you love, but I just want to give you a bit of encouragement that if you've got a pattern that is almost right but not quite right, just give it a go, change it up, cut it, hack it, try it again. This is basically waste fabric anyway. It was not going to be anything else useful. So what's the worst that can happen? You've used up a few scraps. And let me tell you, there is something so wonderfully freeing in knowing that forever I can make my favourite undies, because I used to buy them at M&S and they discontinued my favourite design, which was almost exactly like this. And I was devastated for about 10 minutes. And then I realised, oh, I can sew. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about my undies. No, I won't be modelling them. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye.